In 2014, an upstart called GoPro went public with a $3 billion valuation, capturing a market legacy giants should have dominated. For most of the 20th century, businesses relied on a siloed model of growth. Engineers developed products in isolation, often prioritizing technical specs over the actual experience of the person using them. This was the industrial era mindset. Manufacturing required massive capital and factories, so companies held the leverage and consumers bought whatever was available on the shelf. Marketing functioned as an extension of this power. Its primary job was to buy broadcast space and use volume to persuade the public to want what the factory had already produced. To manage this, businesses used a linear framework. Broad awareness generated attention, funneling down to force a sale. But with infinite digital choice, this top-down pressure has lost its effectiveness. Consumers can ignore unwanted interruptions, making the old persuasion model increasingly expensive. Success today is shifting away from those who shout the loudest and toward those who solve the specific problems people already have. Creating things people actually want requires a shift in focus toward invisible problems. These are the frustrations we've lived with for so long that we've simply stopped seeing them as problems. In 1902, car manufacturers were fixated on improving engine horsepower and transmission speed. They largely ignored the physical reality of driving in the rain or snow. At the time, the only way to see the road in a storm was to roll down the window and stick your head outside, or physically wipe the glass with your hand while the vehicle was moving. Mary Anderson was an outsider who noticed this danger. By empathizing with the driver's struggle to see, she invented the first manually operated windshield wiper, a solution to a problem manufacturers had treated as an unavoidable part of driving. A century later, Melanie Perkins noticed a similar invisibility in design software. While the industry focused on adding more technical features, her students were spending entire semesters just trying to learn the basic tools. Perkins identified the user's emotional fear of failure as the primary barrier to entry, rather than the complexity of the software interface itself. This suggests that innovation doesn't start with a better line of code or a more powerful engine. It starts with the willingness to sit with someone and observe their frustration. Large companies often miss these opportunities because they prioritize hard data, the quantitative metrics that show what happened in the past. Consider Tesco, which used loyalty cards to build one of the most sophisticated retail databases in the world, tracking every item millions of people bought for nearly 20 years. This data allowed them to track aggregate buying habits with incredible precision within their stores. But after the global financial crisis, customers began prioritizing transparency and simplicity over loyalty points. Tesco's spreadsheets couldn't measure this shift in sentiment, and the company's market value dropped significantly as smaller, more responsive competitors moved in. A startup called Shoes of Prey took the opposite approach. Instead of tracking aggregate sales, they listened to the emotional stories of women who felt frustrated because standard retail sizing and seasonal trends made it impossible to find shoes that actually fit. These two charts show the contrast. Hard data shows you what happened, but soft data, the qualitative feedback from individuals, shows you why. Hard data measures the history of your transactions, but empathy for the user's experience helps predict the future of your business. The most effective business strategies today flip the timeline. They start with the customer's story and work backward to the technology, rather than the other way around. To test if an idea is meaningful, you can apply a before and after test. Does this product actually change the narrative of the person using it? In the before state of music, listening required you to travel to a physical store, search through limited inventory, and wait for new releases to be shipped. The iPod changed that narrative. It offered an after state with instant access and the ability to personalize an entire library in your pocket. Every successful modern innovation acts as a bridge. It moves the customer from a state of frustration or limitation to a state of increased agency. We see this in the rise of subscription services and on-demand delivery. We aren't just buying features. We pay for convenience that removes friction from our lives, allowing us to spend our time on the activities we find most significant. The goal isn't to shout for attention, it's to show the customer that you actually see them. When you prioritize the person over the product, you don't have to work so hard to make them love what you build.